We are live on YouTube now.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Could you, oh, there's Chairman Hicks. Do you want to run the meeting, Chairman Hicks?
Representative Larson, after 4 days of Appropriations Committee and chairing that, I would be more than happy and pleased if you would chair the Select Water Committee meeting today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you please take roll, Abigail?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take roll. Representative Blake.
Here.
Representative Eklund.
Here.
Representative Hunt.
Excused.
Representative Paxton.
Here.
Representative Simpson.
Here.
Senator Agar.
Excused.
Senator Anselmi Dalton.
Here.
Senator Dockstader.
Excused.
Senator Driscoll.
Excused.
Senator Moniz.
Here.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Here.
And Chairman Hicks.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Great to see everybody. Glad you're here. I think we'll go ahead and begin, and we'll probably just go right to Director Gebhardt and begin with the omnibus water bill planning. I think Abigail sent out a new bill along with a couple other ones, so we'll go with that. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brandon Gebhardt, Director of Water Development. Mr. Chairman, yes, Abby, I believe, sent it out last night. It was kind of a little bit of a scramble after the commission meetings. Enlarged in the planning bill are the projects that we've talked about numerous times throughout this process. I think some of the changes and the reason why an amendment went out last night deal mostly or almost exclusively with the LaPrelle Irrigation District project. But to get to that point, I'll just quickly give you a synopsis of what's in the planning bill. We've got about 1.359 million in new development level 1 projects, master plans, watershed studies, the such. In the level 2 projects under new development, we've got 4 projects for a total of 586,000. In the level 1 projects for rehabilitation, which would be water development account 2, we've got 2 projects for a total of 434,000. The next item is LaPrelle. I'll come back to that in a second. And then also in this bill are 4 amendments, and those are time extension amendments.
Brandon?
Yes, sir.
Could I interrupt you just for a second? Abigail, for whatever reason, the updated bill didn't come through on my email. Did everybody else get that? But if you could forward that to me again, I just checked. I've got your other email from last night regarding the proposed amendment for the, but I didn't get an update on the omnibus water bill. Or did I misunderstand?
Did everybody get the updated bill? It should be 307 version 3. Last night, I will resend that now. Maybe something happened.
Yeah, it came in about 4:16.
That would have been about right. I will resend it now, just so everyone has it.
Yeah, let's kind of, should we go ahead and wait a little bit so we can get that to Senator Hicks?
I do have it though too. I just want to let you know I saw it.
I'm going to send both of them. You should be.
Did everybody else find it?
I should have just resent it to everyone, and then Senator Hicks, I specifically put you in case there's something off with the listserv.
Yeah, it's not in here. I checked clutter too, and for whatever reason, it didn't come through.
The bill that's
Imagine-
online is the same one that we're talking about as well.
What's that, Director?
The bill that's online on the LSO website is the same as we're talking about today too.
Okay, I can go in there and just download it off of that website too if it doesn't show up.
Well, why don't we go ahead and continue?
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to screen share it for right now?
That might not be, that'd be a good idea. Thank you.
so Mr. Chairman, when this pulls up, unless there are any other questions outside of LaPrel, I would jump right to, I believe it's page 6. Perfect. Thank you, Abby. Mr. Chairman, the LaPrel Irrigation District, it's an amendment to the previous appropriation. So previously, you will see in line 14 of that page that we had 650,000 appropriated to it. At the commission meeting yesterday, we are recommending an increase to that of 4.3 million. So the way that this is written as is shown on the screen, that 4.3 should actually be 4.95 million because we're adding on top of this 650. And then for line 16, that number, the total appropriation for 2021 should be 4.3 million. So those two numbers should probably be just swapped around. The reason for the 4.3 million, the consulting team has done a lot of work within the last year. They've done some alternatives analysis, some field work, and where we are right now is kind of a fork in the road. One of the things that we feel we need to do is try to go out and figure out other funding sources that could help us with this project. Ultimately, we're going to need as much funding as we can possibly get from other sources outside of the state. And so that's kind of the crossroads we're at, whether we go get funding right now and hold up the design. And then the other fork is to continue with the fast track and keep the momentum going. The consultants have identified the next phase of design, field work, geotechnical, and permitting. And the total for that amount is about $3.8 million. So when we looked at this, we had $500,000 to continue a little bit of this, wrap up some of the study, do some risk analysis, and try to go out and secure additional funding. And then 3.8 towards continuing the design, and that would get us to a 30% conceptual design and take care of some of the permitting that we know of now. So we had a lot of discussion on that. And so our recommendation then is to continue with the $4.3 million appropriation and basically set us up for both of those roads. And the way we would administer the funds and the project going forward, it'd be similar to a task-based contract, or we're not going to contract for the full 4.3 right now. We're going to do a procedural, systematic approach to the project, and it'll likely start with some funding, and then we will bring the design along with the funding aspect so that we know what the requirements are of any potential funding that we have, so that we're not duplicating work, and we're trying to use the outside funding as much as possible for whatever it'll fund. If it'll fund design, if it'll fund environmental, we plan on using that. But we want to just set it up, get it appropriated so that we can be nimble. The other thought behind this full appropriation is that we could use it as leverage if there are matching requirements for other funding. We've got this money that we can use that and leverage it and reduce the state's appropriations and stretch these dollars as far as we can. So that's the concept of the recommendation. I'll stop there in case there are any questions to that.
Yes, Director, can you give us an idea where you're looking for other funding?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, also in the waiting room, we've got two of the consulting team members. If they can be let in, maybe they can add to this as well. But we're looking at a myriad of funding opportunities. There's NRCS. There's some FEMA money that we're looking at. The state engineer's office already has some FEMA money to look at high hazard potential dams. We're actually looking at using some of that for this risk analysis.
Mr. Chairman, can I have the names of the people that need let in?
Yeah, Abby, it's Corey Foreman and Pete Roush. I apologize.
Abigail, is there a way you can put us all in view again? I think I see Senator Anselmi Dalton has her hand up. You're on mute.
Thank you,
Oh, there you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Director Gephardt, I was listening in obviously on Wednesday with your committee meeting, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone, I think they talked about what the full cost of the dam was. We thought it had gone up fairly substantially. And did they say like, they thought, originally we thought 30 million, but now you were thinking maybe closer to 40 or 50. Is that what they said the other day? I couldn't remember.
Mr. Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Senator Anselmi Dalton, I threw out a range, and we don't have a solid number yet. It's safe to say it's $50 to $80 million, so it's a significant cost.
Are there any other questions for the director? Senator Driscoll.
I think it's been answered a bunch of times, Mr. Chairman. How many users and how many acres in this district?
Director?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna have to maybe turn that over to Pete Roush or Corey Foreman if they know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Roush. Or Corey Foreman.
I think Pete's most familiar with the district. This is Corey Foreman, Mr. Chairman with HDR. So I'm not sure if Pete's on. It's 104 users, total users within the district. And the acres are, the exact numbers eluding me, but it's just north of 11,000 acres. It's like 11,300, I believe.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Gephardt, the 4.3 million increase was specifically for what exactly? I might have missed that.
Director Gephardt.
Mr. Chairman, the 4.3 million, so 500,000 of that roughly would be the one fork in the road where that would go out and try to find and secure additional funding sources. And then roughly 3.8 million would be for design work, field work, stakeholder involvement, geotechnical, site investigations, permitting, and really developing. So at the end of that 3.8, we would have a 30% conceptual design and the permitting pretty well completed. Maybe the permitting is questionable because we don't know what the requirements are yet, but it would take us well down that road.
Thank you.
Director, I think, Representative Blake, do you have a second?
No, just thank you.
All righty. Director, I think there was, I think we're short in account 2, is that correct? And so you have something on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in the in the bill, there was a special condition to that effect. Trying to find it real quickly. Abby, did that get
It's on page 10.
page 10?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
the transfer is in section 7 on page 10. I can screen share this as well.
Yeah,
That would be great. Thank you.
the concept is to transfer from water development account 1 to account 2 for this. This is a rehab project.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mike Purcell.
Yes, go ahead.
This was a matter of quite discussion for 2 days with the commission. And why we are particularly supporting this is preserving storage is the #1 priority of the rehabilitation program. And we do consider this as a potential emergency, given the condition of the dam. So we're seeking the flexibility for funding to proceed in an orderly manner to get that conceptual design and permitting done, with the understanding that the director and his staff will come to us at time to time for amendments to the consultant contract to do work in a methodical and professional way. But we think we need the money to proceed as quickly as possible. Likewise, we are very interested in the fact that if there is additional funding sought, that any money that we obtain would be reimbursed by the district. And it also opens the possibility that if they can't obtain additional funding, we would use our expenditures to secure leverage for alternative funding. So our hope is that we will be successful and that ultimately our expenditures will be reimbursed. But if not, we will use it for leverage to get additional funding. And then any reimbursement would go to water development account 2. So anyway, we felt that this was a special situation, given the condition of the dam, and the commission unanimously supported this approach.
Any questions for Commissioner Purcell?
Mr. Co-Chair, real quick question, Mike or Brandon, whoever wants to answer. So is the entirety of the additional funding coming out of account 2? Or are we going to have to make transfers? And then what does that leave the balance for the second half of the biennium out of account 2?
Director?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks. So yes, this would transfer from account 1 to account 2. And I believe that would leave us roughly 9-ish million in account 1. But I would remind you that this would be the second year of the biennial money appropriated. So
what's that leaving the balance of account 2? Anything?
we would have, I believe, with the 4.3, about 500,000.
We got 500 now, and I think because you're not funding that original 500,000.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. So that'd leave $1 million in there. I forgot about how we handled 500,000. So we would have about $1 million left in account 2.
Okay, thank you.
Abigail, can you put us back on to see everybody? Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, could I possibly make a recommendation to the language that's written as is?
Yes, go ahead.
On page 7, line 3, I would offer a change to the language. So on line 3, after maybe, to replace what the rest of that sentence and replace it with for any cost share requirements upon approval of the commission and select water committee, period, reimbursed funds shall be deposited into water development account 2. So that just ties any matching or cost sharing would be approved by the commission, select water. And then it identifies that reimbursements would go back into the account 2.
Could you go ahead and say that again, but do it slowly, and we'll hope Abigail can catch it, because I don't know if I can.
Absolutely. Line 3 on page 7. After may be used, replace the rest with for any cost share requirements upon approval of the commission and select water committee, period. Reimbursed funds shall be deposited into water development account 2.
You good with that, Abigail? Do you need it
Mr.
repeat?
Chairman, I think I've got it written down.
Okay. I tried to too. All righty. Are there any? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if we could, I would move that last sentence up to the reimbursed part. So on page 6, line 25.
Can you explain that again to us?
At page 6, line 25, after for the study from this appropriation, I would put the reimbursed funds shall be deposited into account 2 there. That way we're dealing with the reimbursement, and then we're dealing with the cost share. So put it to where the rest of the language is on the reimbursement, if that works for the director.
Mr. Chairman, Abby, I'm fine with that. And then the other change that I made, I basically, on line 4 of page 7, I took out the district. The reason I did that if the state is able to go secure some funding as well, we'd like to be able to leverage the money for anything that we can find and that we could contract with as well. So it wouldn't be just tied to district outside funding.
And is that an additional change, Brandon? I didn't get that on where you made that.
It was part of the sentence that I read you, Abby.
I noticed that change, so I'm good there.
Okay.
Okay, when we get to working the bill, we'll bring this all back up. Any other questions? I don't see any. Do you have anything else to add, Director?
If there are no other questions, I'm good. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, I'm going to go to the committee and ask if they, well, I guess I did. Are there any more questions? One more time. Is there any buddy that would like to testify? Mr. Foreman or Mr. Roush? Okay. I guess we'll go to the committee right now. And check and see, I would think it'd be proper to move the bill. Is that correct, Senator Hicks?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering if Brandon was going to walk us through the whole bill or just the changes. I'd like to walk through the entire bill.
I agree. I think that would probably be a good idea if we could go a little slower and maybe explain some of this, and maybe people might have questions on specific projects.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. So on page 2, section 1, these would be the level 1 reconnaissance study for new development. So these would be water development account 1. All of these would have a reversion date of July 1, 2024. And the projects under this section are the Hoback River Watershed Study for $277,000. The next project would be the Lander Water Master Plan for $208,000.
Director, could you explain the Lander one to me again? I know during the commissioners meeting, there was quite a discussion on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you're referring to the Lander Ditches project. The Lander Master Plan is a master plan for the water system for Lander. And we can have some discussion on the Lander Ditches when that comes up.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is the Nordic Ranches Water Master Plan, $63,000. Next project is the Upton Water Master Plan, $153,000. Then the Wheatland Water Master Plan, $125,000. Next project is the Lake Hattie Reservoir Full Utilization Study for $250,000. I'll elaborate a little bit on the Lake Hattie project. This is kind of one of those projects that's continually moving. The most recent update we've had on this is that the district and some of the landowners at Lake Hattie are, and I'm assuming that we remember part of this conversation from previous meetings, but this project was brought to us by the district. They're in some legal battles with some of the landowners, and it has to do with the water levels and the accusation that storing water at what they thought was the permitted elevation is flooding some of the houses. And so there was a lawsuit filed, and the lawsuit basically said that they could only store water to a very low elevation. And it essentially makes the reservoir mostly useless to the district at that level. And so the district came to us to see if we could help them come up with a solution that they could store more water and reduce flood impacts to the homeowners. So it has gone through multiple courts. It is back to District 10 court now. And we accepted the application, and we're willing to do a study to help them. But at this point, until we know what the courts are saying and what the solution is, we can't develop a scope. So our ask of this is to have $250,000 as a placeholder, so that if something does break free, some decisions are made, or the courts come to an agreement, it would help us define a scope that we can go out and help the situation out there. And so this just appropriates the funds to allow us to be nimble.
So Brandon, without going down and reading the specific language, so would that be at the authorization of the commission if let's assume that the lawsuit's resolved and it looks like there may be an opportunity to implement the study that could potentially resolve some of those conflicts. So I'm assuming the way this is drafted, the commission would have the authority to go ahead and authorize the expenditures at that point in time. So that's the first question.
Mr. Chairman, so for anything to happen, we would have to go through the complete consultant selection process, vet out the scope and the consultant and the ultimate consultant's cost proposal. So nothing would be contracted until we go through that process too.
Would there be any role for the select water committee and making that decision to go ahead and release those funds?
Director?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we would not sign any contract until it was approved by both the commission and Select Water, so.
All right, thank you.
Follow up? No, you're good. Senator Anselmi Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, how many users are there on Lake Hattie? I'm not familiar with the area personally, so.
I think I'd heard, was it over 400?
Just curious. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Senator Moniz.
thank you. Just one additional comment. It not only affects the users, it affects the entire city of Laramie and the landowners around the city. Depending on the runoff and their ability to store water, if they don't have that ability to store water, then they have to try to shove it down the Laramie River, which in turn floods our neighborhood. I spent over a month and a half pumping my crawl space because of runoff this year. So it affects more than just the user. It affects the entire city of Laramie. That's a big deal in Laramie and Albany County. So any help we can give them, they definitely could use it.
Thank you, Senator. I think I misspoke. I better let Director tell us how many users there were.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the project description and it identifies 46 landowners and just under 18,000 acres that receive water through the Pioneer Canal, which this reservoir feeds.
Thank you for correcting that. Any other?
Director, of that full utilization study, is there any analysis of the impact on the recreation? That's a pretty high recreation reservoir, at least it was when I lived in Laramie. Well, do those utilization levels look at the impact to the recreational component also, or just complete? Is that anticipated? Just look at the ag side of the equation.
Director?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we can certainly put that in the scope. We're still at the point where we don't know what the study is. So that would be one of the questions we could answer, yes.
Well, obviously, depending on how much a store is going to be effective fisheries and yeah, that recreational side. So I think that's something that, you know, as it moves forward, it may be worth looking at, but that's yet to be determined.
Representative Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Muniz, how many homes along the home sites along that high water mark are being affected? And are we literally flooding the homes or are we just encroaching in their backyards?
Senator Moniz.
Yeah, I don't know how many for sure. I thought I sent everybody copies of all the briefs on that, but if you haven't seen them, I'll send them to you again. It's encroaching on some. I don't think any of them are totally flooded. Some of them thought they wanted beachfront property until they got it. So it's a big issue and defies common sense, to be honest with you. But Representative Simpson, if I didn't send you a copy of that, I'd be glad to do that.
I did receive a copy of it, Mr. Chairman, but I with all the data and information we receive, it's
I'm sure you're an overload. I'm thinking 10 or 15 homeowners maybe in that neighborhood, I'm guessing, but I'm not sure.
I'll follow up, Representative Simpson. Okay. Director?
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, then the last project under this block would be the UW Water Research Program. There were two water research program projects that were recommended. The total of those two is $283,454. Total.
Before you continue, I think we'll ask one more time if there's questions on this section. Doesn't look like it. Go ahead, Director.
Mr. Chairman, next section 2, level 2 feasibility studies under Water Development Account 1, new development. Again, this will have a July 1st, 2024 reversion date. These projects are the Bighorn Regional Transmission Project for $146,000, the Byron Rural Water Supply Project for $127,000, Gillette Water System Improvements, $150,000, And then the Little Snake River Water Supply Phase 2 project for $163,000. Total appropriation for this section is $586,000.
Committee, is there any questions for this section? Chairman Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, not a question on this section as much as just, and it might apply to a lot of sections, Brendan, but one of the things that sitting through the Appropriations Committee this last week is we've got $126 million sitting in the SRF fund in the Office of State Lands and Investment. They are in the process of adopting new policies. So the policy would be maximum forgiveness level on those SRF funds. And two components of that, two different loan programs for the SRF. One of them would be 1% interest rate, and the other one is going to be 1.25 to 1.5 interest rate. And so when I just looked through all of the planning studies, and when we get to level 3 at some of the construction, part of the reason they're doing this is to shift, try to shift more of these projects over onto the SRF funding. I don't know what discussions you've had, Director Gephardt, with Director Scoggins, but we get through this session and they adopt those new rules and stuff. I would certainly like to start seeing us utilize that 126 million that's just sitting there in that SRF account. And so maybe, and then, like I said, this is not specific, these projects, but Director, have you had conversations with Director Scoggins and can lay out any discussions you have and that with the commission also of how to better utilize those SRF funds?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have had several discussions already. We'll continue to do that. One of the things that has been done in the past is any of the eligible projects that are available for SRF, Water Development does not provide the loan portion. It does kick them over. So typically we would provide the grant portion of our program and then ask them to go secure additional funding from somewhere else with the hopes that they go to at least consider the SRF funding. And I do think that will be, there's more emphasis on that going into the future. And we are continuing to have conversations with state lands to figure out the best way to use those funds and leverage our state funds with those.
Yeah, and I just think that we're going to need to push more and more that direction. Even, we need to really evaluate the loan forgiveness component on SRF. And if they're willing to go to the maximum level on that, we may just shift entire projects over to SRF, because if they go with the maximum loan forgiveness, it very well could be a better rate than even, I still see the technical arm of getting these projects out is going to be Water Development. But at least on the construction side, at some point in time, we may just say, you're going to have to go do SRF with those. But anyway, just was curious while it was fresh on my mind. And as we look at all these stuff, we got a big pot of money that's not doing anything over there. And we need to start shifting some of this stuff that direction. So thank you, Director. And that's all I had, Mr. Co-Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. Representative Simpson.
May I weigh in on that? Director, what Senator Hicks just mentioned is really important, because if they really push the principal forgiveness program, it literally matches up with our grant program. And we need to develop protocol where we're forcing, now remember, we're talking about water and sewer districts and municipalities here, but we need to be shifting those grants from our grant program over to their grant program. So it may require a shift in your procedures in order to do that. We ought to take advantage of that as much as possible. Thanks, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
and primarily because it's a significant amount of federal funding, where the Water Development Program is primarily 100% state. There's a lot of And I don't remember if it's a 50-50 ratio of what SRF is to state, but it's a significant pool of federal dollars.
Thank you for your comments.
And Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for this section? Don't see any. Director?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the next section is level 1 reconnaissance studies from the Water Development Account 2. This is 2 projects here are the Highland Irrigation District Master Plan and the Lander Ditches Rehabilitation. Mr. Chairman, you asked about the Lander project, and this is the Lander Ditches Rehab is the project we've had quite a bit of discussion on. Originally, we were looking at this as a level 2. After the application, some of the water users off some of these ditches stepped up and expressed concern about the study. I believe there are 3 ditches through the city of Lander, and the concern was mostly tied to one of the ditches, and the Dickinson Creek Ditch Company has water use off of this particular ditch. And so to try to address their concern, they had concern with some of the scope language, particularly with water right analysis and what all that would entail. So we amended the application because there's some questions about ownership and the concerns for the water use and the water rights associated with that. So we amended the recommendation. We moved it to a level 1 because we can do studies for private entities that don't have to be a public entity. So I relieved that concern by shifting it to a level 1. And then we also caveated the project that both the irrigation district, or not the irrigation district, the ditch company and the city had to agree on the scope language and the scope of work before we would execute a contract. So we'll continue working with the ditch company and the city of Lander to make sure that there's concurrence before we sign a contract to do the work.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions for this section? Representative Simpson.
Mr. Chairman, Director Gephardt, have you put this one up for proposals? Do you have a contractor on board for this one?
Mr. Chairman.
Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we do have consultants selected for it. They're aware of what's going on. We've had communications with them. So it's something that we're working through with all parties.
Mr.
Follow
Chairman,
up, Representative Simpson.
I haven't done my homework to know what the scope here is, but $242,000 is quite a bit of money just for a reconnaissance study of a canal network. Is there something exhaustive here that's going to go on? Why is that such a large dollar amount?
Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't know that I know all the details, but there are 3 ditches, at least 3 ditches that run through the community. There are concerns about access to the ditches. There are concerns about who has ownership portions of the ditch, who maintains the ditches. There are some issues with ditch crossing streets and alleys, and so the original plan was to help address some of those immediate concerns as well. So there is a component of conceptual design and alternatives analysis for some of these things as well. So if you remember, it started out as a level 2 and just shifted to a level 1. And so some of those design components may play into this as well.
Chairman
Thank you,
Hicks.
Mr. Chairman.
I did Representative Simpson have a follow-up? So I've got a kind of a follow-up for that, Director. So the question I have is because we've gone from a level 2 to a level 1. And that was because based on some discussions on eligibility criteria and who couldn't apply. But, so did we just shift the, this from a level 2 to a level 1, but we're doing the exact same study? Is that what we're doing here?
Director,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, yeah, that's what we're doing.
follow
We're
up,
just-
Chairman.
No, we're just moving the deck chairs here so we can fund the same study, just calling it something different.
Director,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's mostly correct. There will be some scope modifications to get concurrence between the two, but yes, that's essentially it.
follow up.
No, but I can't say that I like it. Moving deck chairs just to do this is a little troubling. And it gets back to, I guess it was Representative Simpson's is, you know, it's a pretty expensive level 1 reconnaissance study when in fact it's a level 2. We've just changed the name because of the eligibility criteria. So I don't want to go down this road and start a precedent that we just start shifting these non-eligible entities into level 1 studies. But anyway, that's, I think, you know, this one just as a lesson learned and maybe move forward, but let's keep an eye on that.
Mr. Chairman, Mike Purcell, if I could.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, you'll recall we did have some discussion in a joint meeting with the Select Water Committee. And the reality is, as soon as the district and the city can agree to a scope of services, there's likely that there could be a reduction in the contract amount. But until we see what the principals in the study are thinking and doing, I think it's wise right now to appropriate the 242. But the reality of it is there may be less water rights work. And some of the other tasks may be cut back depending on the local issues being resolved.
Any other questions? I don't see any. Will you continue, Director?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Section 4, we've discussed this. This deals particularly with the LaPrelle Irrigation District. Are there any further questions on Section 4?
Any further questions? I don't see any.
Mr. Chairman, Section 5 and Section 6, these are time extension amendments to existing contracts. And the time extension for the Fontenelle Dam, and actually this amendment also changes the original name of the Fontenelle Dam. It used to be the Outworks. I think it was probably a typo at that point, but it changes it correctly to Outlet Works Project Infrastructure Completion. That's a time extension, 3-year time extension. It's also a time extension for the Glendale Reservoir Utilization Project for a 3-year time extension. The Glendale Reservoir, the reason we're extending the time on that is there's, as part of the WRDA bill, there is a component of that may provide the ability to reevaluate how, particularly at Glendale, how they operate and maintain that flood pool. The intent of the study originally was to see if we can use some of the flood pool for irrigation and other water use storage and creep into that flood pool, asking for a retiming of how they operate that. And the study, the way it stands now, is that there's not a lot of desire through the Army Corps of Engineers, who administers that, to change that. But with this new legislation, that may change, or it may be more of a discussion point. So we're hoping to just extend this project, that if something does change, maybe we can reevaluate and have some conversations with the Army Corps.
Any questions for these sections? I don't see any.
Mr. Chairman, section 6, again, these are a couple of time extensions for the Clear Creek storage and the Nowood River Alkali Creek projects. These are 3-year time extensions is all.
Questions? Continue, please.
Mr. Chairman, section 7, this is the transfer for the Pearl project, transferring from water development account 1 to 2, the total amount of $4.3 million.
Okay. Please continue.
Mr. Chairman, section 8 is the effective date and the end of the bill.
All right, committee. What's your pleasure? Do you want to move the bill?
I'd move the bill.
Is there a second? And
Second.
Senator Anselmi Dalton, thank you. We'll open it up for discussion and amendments if there are any. Senator Anselmi Dalton.
Unless you want to go page by page, I would move the amendments that Director Gephardt gave us with the modification by Abigail to put. I don't know how you guys settled on that, Abigail. But
Mr. Chairman,
I would move.
got it here if you want me to read it.
Please do that.
Yes.
So the amendment on page 7, it would be page 7, line 3, you would strike the by. And then page 7, line 4, strike entirely, and then insert for any cost share requirements upon approval of the commission and select water committee, period. And that would be that chunk. The reimbursed part would then go up here. The reimbursed part would be page 6, line 25, after from this appropriation insert reimbursed funds shall be deposited into account 2, period.
That would be my motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, Mike Purcell.
Yes, go ahead.
Could we also include in the motion I'm on line page 6, line 15 or 15 and 16. Those two numbers need to be reversed. The 4.95 comes first and then the 4.3.
Is that okay? Yes, Senator Anselmi Dalton.
I don't know that adds up because when the was
Mr.
it LaPro and
Abigail, go ahead.
Abigail.
Mr. Chairman, I can explain that. That was my mistake. The page 6, line 14 should be the total project budget, which would be the 4.95 million. The additional appropriation is then in line 6, the total 21 appropriation, which is the 4.3. So it reads
Abigail,
backwards. It doesn't add up, but
that's how it should read.
Thanks for the explanation.
Are you okay
So
with
that-
that,
I'm amenable to
Senator?
that. Yes, and I don't have a second.
I keep missing you, but I think you wanted to make that motion or add that to it.
Right, that's fine. Thank you.
I think
there-
that's just, Mr. Chairman, I think that's just a technical correction to clarify that. I don't know that it requires.
That requires it. Okay. Let's go with that then. Is there a second for Senator Anselmi Dalton's motion? Senator Moniz. Discussion on the amendment? I see none. All those in favor, raise your hand. Looks like it's on those opposed. Looks like it was unanimous. Are there any other amendments? Discussion on the bill before we vote? Abigail, could you call roll? I'm not sure if could you call roll a vote on that for us, Abigail?
Um, for 21 LSO 307 version 3 as amended, Representative Blake,
Aye.
Representative Eklund,
Aye.
Representative Paxton,
Aye.
Representative Simpson,
Aye.
Senator Anselmi Dalton,
Aye.
Senator Dockstader,
Aye.
Senator Driscoll,
Aye.
Senator Moniz,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson,
Aye.
and Chairman Hicks.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. I guess now we'll go on to the third item, omnibus water bill construction.
Mr. Chairman.
Director? Oh, Senator Driscoll, I missed that.
Thank you, Chairman Larson. I'm going to have to step away. I've left a proxy with Chairman Hicks for the further bills coming up. So just so everybody knows, and I've got to step out. Thank you.
Thank you for being here while you could. Thank you. Director?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next bill is the omnibus water bill for construction. If it's okay, I will jump to the first project on page 3. That is the cloud seeding Medicine Bow Mountains 21-22 project. Now this is for snowpack augmentation in the Medicine Bow, Sierra Madres, and Laramie Range project. The total project amount is $778,000, but the appropriation amount for the project is $728,000. The remainder of that would come from our funding partners. In this case, it is the BOPU. Mr. Chairman, do you just want me to continue with going down and have people interject, or you want to talk about each project as I go?
I'd like to open it up for questions as we go. Are there any questions on this part? I do not see any. Please continue.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is the cloud seeding Wind River Mountains 21-22. This is the ground-based program in the Wind River Mountain Range. The total project amount is $571,000. We're asking for an appropriation for our involvement in the program of $215,000. The remainder of the funds come from funding partners for that project as well. To the tune of about, we're participating about 37% of the program.
Any questions? Please continue.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the next project is the Lander Well and Transmission Pipeline Project. Sponsor is the City of Laramie. The total project amount is $1,320,000. This is a 67% grant. The community is responsible for the 33% match. Total appropriation under this project is $884,400, which is 67% of the total cost.
I think you interjected Laramie and it is Lander, but
Sorry.
I think everybody caught that, I'm sure. Are there any questions? Please continue.
Okay. Next project, Mr. Chairman, is the Northwest Rural Water System Improvements Project. The sponsor is Northwest Rural District. Total project is $2.11 million. This is a 67% grant. The sponsor is responsible for the remaining 33. So the total appropriation is for $1,413,700.
I'm actually on the Northwest Rural Water, but I don't think I'm in this area. Do you have a specific area that this is going to? Is it South Fork?
Mr. Chairman, I forget exactly what it feeds, but if I remember correctly, it's to develop some new service area, I believe. And I can pull up the recommendations here real quick.
We can catch that at the end if you,
Yeah,
it looks like you're the only one.
I've got other people, they'll pull it up and we can come back to that if you would like.
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions on this? Please continue.
All right, Mr. Chairman. Next project on page 9 is the Torrington Well Connection 2021 project for the city of Torrington. The total project budget is $581,000. This is a 67% grant. So we're asking for an appropriation of $389,270.
Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Co-Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, question, Brandon. So I'm assuming, are these alluvial wells that we're looking at? And so how is this going to be, if they are alluvial wells, how is this going to be looked at in light of the North Platte decree and the settlement as far as depletions on the North Platte?
Mr. Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we've got one of the authors of, or one of the major participants of the decree that I think could answer that question for that.
I think he's sitting right next to you.
He is.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. First of all, municipal use is exempt under the decree. Second of all, the other thing that comes into effect is the Platte River Recovery Implementation Plan. And we have room under any thresholds we have under that plan for projects like this, where they're basically not really changing the amount of water they're taking. They're just improving the manner of conveyance and how they get the well. These are a series of alluvial wells, as you've said, and they're all still pretty high in radionuclides and arsenic. So they do treat them with reverse osmosis. But the reality of it is we're totally covered by both the decree and the Endangered Species Act.
Follow up, Chairman.
Yeah, so Mike, these wells, they're not an addition, they're not going to be drawing any more water. So this is not an increase in a depletion. We're just doing some adjustments based on quality. Was that an accurate characterization?
Mr. Chairman, you know, there may be additional depletions based on population growth. But when we established our thresholds, we included room for projects like this. And so basically, this will not raise any eyebrows in Nebraska or with the program. This is totally meeting the demands of a municipality in Wyoming.
So
Follow
back
up,
to,
Chairman Hicks.
yeah, if I can, Co-Chairman. So under the PRIP, this would be covered even if there was an additional depletion with the Pathfinder project, the Pathfinder enlargement. Is that how that works, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, yes, that's our mitigation for things like this, with the environmental account and Pathfinder modification, as well as our financial participation in the program.
Okay.
But this is what we bought when we entered the program, is that we can go on business as usual. And particularly in a situation where Torrington has not boomed. We're not looking at double population, or we're just taking care to a certain extent, a more efficient way to meet the existing populations and provide some water for some growth. So I'm totally comfortable that this is well within our parameter under both the decree and the program.
All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Director, please continue.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, and if I could step back to the Northwest Rural Project. So the project is on the southeast side of the Sage Creek portion of the project, so southeast of Cody.
Thank you. And just to clarify, I think when they do these projects, I think those people that are joining the system are pretty much taking up the loan themselves, I think is how that works. And it's not the whole area of Northwest Rural Water. So just for clarification.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, we'll move on to the level 3 construction projects under the rehabilitation account. The first project is for the Interstate Irrigation and Reservoir, or the Interstate Irrigation and Reservoir Irrigation District Improvements Project. If you will remember, when we presented this was for the southwest corner of the state. It borders Utah. There are, within this district, the majority of the lands are in Wyoming. There were a little bit of lands in Utah. And the pipeline that we're looking at for this or the ditch, excuse me, that we're converting to a pipeline actually is in Utah, but it feeds irrigated lands in Wyoming. And so the total project budget is $4.22 million. This is a 67% grant. They have additional funding sources for the remainder. So the total appropriation of this project is $2,827,400.
Any questions? Please continue.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next project is the Salt Creek Transmission Pipeline Project. Sponsor is the Salt Creek Joint Powers Board. This is for the design and construction of some transmission pipelines replacements. This is a 67% grant project. The total project budget is $10,920,000. The appropriation is $7,316,400. And I will remind the commission that this is a project we talked about that we're looking into some potential cost savings. We think we can find some. So if that is the case, any contract that we would enter into would reflect those potential cost savings on this project.
Chairman Hicks.
Yeah, Vice Chairman Larson. Brandon, how many taps are on in the Joint Powers Board?
We'll pull that, yeah, we'll pull that up, Mr. Chairman. This district is fed by the Central Wyoming system, and it feeds 300 taps around Midwest.
Chairman Hicks.
No, that's a pretty good cost per tap.
Mr. Chairman, I do think that we're going to realize some savings on this, and it is a 7-mile pipeline to service the 300 taps. That's the biggest cost of it, is the length of delivery.
Looks like a great SRF program to me.
Mr. Chairman, sometime when we have, I can relate some of the history of how we built the original project, and particularly as it relates to a former constituent of yours, Kathleen's son.
I remember Kathleen well.
So, but this has got quite a history of why we got in this in the first place.
Any other questions? Please continue, Director.
All right, Mr. Chairman, next project is the Shoshone Irrigation District's improvements. This is a materials only grant. The grant portion would be 100% of the materials invoiced. The total project amount is $477,500. We would match $240,000. So the appropriation that we're requesting is $240,000.
Any questions? Please continue.
Mr. Chairman, the next project is the Sidon Irrigation District Rehab 2021 project. This is again a materials only grant. The appropriation amount, total project amount is 700, oh, wrong number. No, $755,475 is the total project budget. We're requesting an appropriation in the grant of $576,000.
Mr. Director, I just kind of wondered, I should know what that is specifically going to, but could you look that up real quick when you get a second?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is to install some structures and gates on some of their irrigation system. Brian, is there any canal to pipe on this one, or is it?
No, these are all the spill gates and diversion.
Waste spill gates and diversions structures.
Are they putting in automatic gates on these, do you think?
Do you know the question that, Brian? Are they automatic
They
gates?
are automated.
Automated gates, that's yes. Some of them are.
Thank you. Please continue.
All right, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to the next section. This is the Sponsors Contingency Fund. This is for account 2. Sponsors Contingency Fund. As you remember, we've had a run on our sponsor contingency account recently, typically because we've got a few fairly large projects in water development account that are in construction right now. And we've had some bids come in high, so we've had a run on what we have. So we're asking for an increase to the sponsor contingency account of $1.5 million. And this amendment is accomplishing that.
Any questions on this? What is the history on moving funds to this contingency account? Have we usually brought in about that amount of money?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, it's typically been probably 500 to $1 million to $1.5 million over the years.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next item on it is a time extension only for the Arapahoe water supply system. Again, these are a lot of these time extensions have to do with the acquisition of easements, and this is the case in this project as well.
Any questions? Please continue.
Next project is the same thing. The EPD water supply project had troubles getting some easements, so this is a time extension for that project as well.
Chairman Hicks.
Yeah, Brandon, where are we at with the easements on this? Are we making progress, or are we still waiting on the tribes?
Mr. Chairman, I think that in general, easement acquisition is improving on the reservation. I had a conversation with the new Mitch. His name is Brandon Reynolds. He commented to me that they are making improvements on the timeliness of obtaining easements across the reservation. So, and I believe that these projects, the easements are moving. I don't know if they're all obtained yet, but improvements are being made.
So,
follow up?
Improvements, but do we have a time frame, an expected time frame for where we may have? I mean, so when were these projects originally? I'm assuming now the funds were appropriated 3 years ago.
The Arapahoe water supply was a 2016 appropriation, and then ETD, I believe, was a that's a 2010 one, Brian?
I believe it is, yes.
What's that?
2010, correct.
The 2010. So that one's quite old, and I think that we had some discussion internally on this, that this might be the last time we consider an extension for the project if they can't get their easements in place.
Well, we're tying up capital that could be going to projects around the state, and this is an internal issue, as I understand it, within the tribes. it's solely within their control. So if, if you can't help yourself, we can't help you either. So I guess that's the way I look at it. So I would concur with that. If it doesn't get done this time, we need to reallocate those funds.
Mr. Chairman, I think we feel the same way.
Thank you. Please go.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the next project is the Small Water Project Program for New Development. We've had a lot of discussion about this in joint meetings. And at some of those discussions, we talked about what are we going to fund, and we talked about an analysis. And so the request for this session would be $1 million, and that's basically predicated on some of the discussions that we've had in the joint meetings with everyone.
Any questions? Representative Simpson.
Director, you said 1 million there, but the red line copy on page 22 indicates 2 million.
It does.
So, yeah, Mr. Chairman, that whole thing is kind of tough to follow. So these are amending prior appropriations. So the way it's viewed is what we're appropriating is 50% of total budget. So the total project budget is double what the appropriation is. And so that it's very hard to read because we're adding on to old numbers as we go along. And when I looked at this, I felt confident that what we were doing was really adding $1 million to the project grant appropriation.
Does that answer your question? Oh, go ahead. Follow up.
Yeah, I can't concur with that, Director. We're literally adding $2 million to this bill, so I need you to help me with that a little further. But the next question is, how many applications are we turning away with this budget? Is this encompassing all the applications so we're satisfying everyone?
Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, to your first point, if you look at page 23, lines 1 through 3, this is the appropriation. So there's on the previous page, it talks about the total project budget, and then it talks about what is the appropriation. So on page 23, we're changing what used to be $5,663,000 under the appropriation amount to $6,663,000. So we're appropriating $1 million. And am I making any sense to you, Representative Simpson?
Representative Simpson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm good with that one, but I still don't understand, and maybe Abigail needs to help us why that number needs to be doubled back on page 22.
Mr. Chairman, this is Abigail. I think the project, Water Development does the project budget. So if you look in all their other projects, you'll see the total amount. And then their appropriations is usually that 66% grant amount. My guess is that is how they've written this one as well. So the total project budget allowed for these small water projects in terms of projects would be your 13 million, but only Water Development's only putting in the 6 million at the 50% cost share.
So Mr. Chairman, I'll add on that any project we get, this is a 50% essential cost share, essentially. So any project that we get is going to be double of what we appropriate to a project. So that's the reason for the total project budget.
Representative Simpson.
Thank you. That helps me completely. I'm satisfied now. So would you address the issue of how many applications you've left on the table with this appropriation?
Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have not received all the applications. This is kind of a delayed approach. The project applications are still coming in. They're due to us by December 1st. So this project just sets up, or this appropriation sets up the $1 million, and then we have to fit whatever project applications into this $1 million. So we don't know if we've left any out or not. It totally depends on how many applications we get and for what amount. And in the instance where, and we'll have more discussion on this with our guidance document later today, but in the instance that we cannot fund all of the eligible applicants, then we prioritize them, and there potentially could be some that don't get funded.
Thank you.
Mr. Director, so the deadline was December 1st, so are you waiting for the mail?
Mr. Chairman, that January 1, I apologize. So the
Okay.
applications come in through the end of December. And then if you remember, we changed our criteria so that those application deadlines are moved up. So we'll have a better feel at this time next year of what the applications look like.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
All right. Mr. Chairman, the next section is essentially the same thing. This is for the small water for rehab. Same concept, except that we're only requesting an appropriation of $500,000.
Any questions? Please continue.
Mr. Chairman, the next project, this is actually a name change. The sponsor originally for the Sheridan Area Water Supply Transmission Project was the SAWS Joint Powers Board. Both the Joint Powers Board and the City of Sheridan have asked us to amend the sponsor to the City of Sheridan. They both have agreed that the ownership of the project is the City of Sheridan. And it ties to how they've applied for some matching funding as well. So what we're doing is just correcting the sponsor to the City of Sheridan for a previously appropriated project.
Any questions? I don't see any. Please continue.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Section 3 has essentially two parts. The first part is transfer from Water Development Account 1 to Account 2 in the amount of $7.5 million. And I would also, I need to back up slightly. There are two projects that we've discussed that are contingent on this transfer. And those two projects are the Salt Creek Transmission Pipeline Project and the Shoshone Irrigation District Improvements Project. So both of those projects are contingent on this transfer in Section 3A.
Any questions? I don't see any. Please continue.
Mr. Chairman, the next paragraph under Section 3, basically what we're asking for here is the ability to sell the state's interest in a well that was developed under a level 2 project for the Lance Creek Water and Sewer District. They're under some EPA administrative orders. They're kind of in a tough spot. They just want to purchase the well that we did in a level 2 study, be able to use it how they want, and hook in and use this for their basically their potable system. So we've gone back and we've calculated what the cost of the well was. The development office is willing to relieve our interest in the well to help them out. And so this allows us to sell the well to the district for $33,000.
Any questions?
A quick question, Mr. Chairman, Director Gephardt, when was this well drilled?
I believe the well was drilled with a 2011 appropriation, so it's probably completed sometime before 2013, and it's
just
sitting since.
Follow up?
No, I just was wondering, that cost looked a little bit low to me, but that probably explains it right there.
Any other questions? Please continue.
Mr. Chairman, the next section, Section 4, is the effective date of the bill and the end of the bill.
Thank you, Director. Are there any other questions? I'm not sure, Abigail, is there any comments from anybody out there?
Mr. Chairman, we don't have anyone in the waiting room for this bill.
Thank you.
Vice Chairman, I move the bill.
Thank you. Is there a second? Senator Anselmi Dalton seconded. Any discussion? Why don't we go ahead and have a roll call, please, Abigail?
All righty. Let me find my sheet here. Representative Blake,
Aye.
Representative Eklund,
Aye.
Representative Paxton,
Aye.
Representative Simpson, I couldn't.
Aye. Aye, sorry.
Senator Anselmi Dalton,
Aye.
Senator Dockstader,
Aye.
Senator Driscoll,
Excuse.
Did he leave a vote on this?
He did. He left an aye vote.
Thank you.
Thanks for reminding me that I've got his proxy sitting here.
Thank you.
Senator Moniz,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson,
Aye.
Chairman Hicks.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that passes.
Thank you, Abigail. All right, I think we're going to keep continuing. Now, hopefully this will be short and maybe then we can take a break. Item number 4, update on the Gillette Madison pipeline loan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we were asked to provide an update on what's happened with Gillette Madison Pipeline. A couple of things. We provided an update memo to you. It's in the e-notebook. But a couple of main points to it. Really,
Can I interrupt, please, and see if Abigail could put that up?
Yep, I can do that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, really where we are right now is we've got 3 of the 5 wells that basically need to be completed, tested, and tied in. So that's a majority of the work that is remaining. They're scheduled for acidization of one of their wells this month. Is that completed, Brian, or still? That hasn't been completed yet. No. Okay. And then they've got some pump testing to do on this M14 as well as the other 2 wells. And then they need to design and construct the connection of these wells into the system. So what we're saying right now on the bottom of page 1 of the memo is that we're anticipating that the total cost to remain is about $10 million to finish the project. And then Abby, if you'd go to the next page, I think the important thing in this description is this describes that the city of Gillette, they had a loan for a portion of the project. It kind of gets complicated, but in total they had a loan out for $44,328,358. We worked with the city of Gillette. We asked them if they would help and reduce some of that principal that they have sitting out there. And it's all tied to when benefits accrue. So there was some discussion about that, some disagreements. So where we ended up is the city of Gillette repaid $40 million of their loan, which as the way we calculated was closely equivalent to the amount of work that has been complete versus what is left to be done. So they do have a loan balance of $4,328,358 that we agreed that we would not decide that benefits have accrued on that portion of it, but they did pay the $40 million. And then on September 14th, the state treasurer's office received that $40 million payment from the city of Gillette. And then Abby, on the next page is kind of a snapshot in time of where we think we're going to end up. This may be slightly dated, but really the important numbers are at the bottom, the estimated final completion budgets. We're expecting that when everything is all said and done, that they're just short of $30 million remaining in the project unexpended. We hesitate to call it a reversion at this time because things may come up, but of that roughly $30 million, just under $20 million would be the state's involvement in it. And then the city of Gillette of that budget has $10 million in there. So we're really looking at about $19 million that we don't have a plan for right now.
Any discussion? Questions? Chairman Hicks.
Mr. Co-Chair, I had asked for this to be on there because this came up with the Capital Finance Committee, looking at through the state treasurers. And at that time, when we had this meeting, it was still showing that there hadn't been any payment made by the city of Gillette, and showed that $44 million repayment, and having sit on this committee for some time. But so they have made the 40 million. We're still looking at potentially $20 million of potential reversions. Is that the way I understand it? And Brandon, the second part of that question is and I vaguely remember the conversation in August about it's the WWCC determines when the entity is receiving benefits from the project. So what is left for? Is it just the completion of these wells? And were the funds that were spent that were utilized were they for the drilling of the wells, or the actually construction of the pipeline, or both? Because that really gets to the key issue of when they derive the use of the project. So could you kind of just give us a potential scenario of how that's going to play out in the next year or so?
Yeah,
Director, go ahead, please.
I will attempt to do my best. So the money that has been spent to date is for drilling the wells, as well as the piping and the distribution to the communities. So all of that is lumped into one project. And to date, all of the wells have been drilled. What is remaining is just some testing, some well completion. They're drilled, but they need to do some well completion. And then they need to install pumps, some electrical, and they need to actually connect it to these 3 wells to the system. So this was 5 wells total. 2 of them have been completed. They are connected. 3 of them are still waiting to be connected and tested, and the remaining work for that. Mr. Chairman, does that answer the question?
Follow up, Chairman?
Mr. Vice Chairman, timeframes, Brendan. So when do we expect these other 3 wells to come online?
Director?
Currently, Mr. Chairman, I believe we're anticipating them to be done prior to 2023, 2022. So within the next couple of years, everything should be done.
Follow
up. So it doesn't take that long to test a well and hook it up to the pipeline. So what's the delay of 2 years? If the well's already been drilled, cased, and the only thing we're waiting on is testing and to hook it up, that certainly wouldn't take 2 years to accomplish that. So what is the big delay?
Director?
And I'll let Brian correct me if I'm wrong, but we still have to design the pumps for these wells, and that's dependent on what they can produce. These are large wells, large motors. It's not just an off-the-shelf thing. So we still have to do some design work, and that's the reason for the time.
Follow up. So Brandon, you got 2 wells sitting right next to them. I've been to the well field. These are not 10 miles apart. I can't fathom. We've drilled these wells into the Madison Formation. They're all in fairly close proximity. That the pumps that were put down the other 2 wells are going to be substantially different. They're drilled into the exact same formation. within a very close proximity, that's going to take 2 years to come up to design a pump when you've already got 2 wells that are online and operating. So I'm going to have more information. It just doesn't sound plausible to me at this point in time. Maybe Brian can weigh in on that as to why is that not the case?
Mr. Chairman, as Brandon alluded to, so these wells are in close proximity, like you indicated, and so the concern there is to design these pumps that they want to make sure there's no interference issues, and so they want to do a pump test after they acidize this M14, the last well that needs to be acidized, and then they'll do a pump test. Again, they're looking for interference issues, and then based on those results, they'll size and design the final pump station. And then after they get the design done, they'll have to advertise and bid the project. And then it'll probably take I don't know, I'm going to guess 6 to 9 months to complete the project. The pipeline out to these individual wells it's already in place. So I'm estimating there's only probably a couple hundred feet to actually connect these wells to the pipelines that's in the well field. So it's really the design, getting the permitting done, advertising the project, and then constructing the project.
So follow up,
Well,
Brian. So did I understand you to say of the 3 wells, 2 of them have already been acid fracked and there's only 1 left to be acidized?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
So have those other 2 wells been pump tested out of the 3?
Preliminary pump testing, I believe, has been done. And again, the goal on these wells is 1,400 gallons a minute, like Brandon indicated. These are very large wells, large pumps. But yes, initial pumping's been done, but they're looking at doing individual pump tests on all the remaining 3 wells long-term to meet DEQ requirements to look at drawdown and again, the interference issues.
Follow up.
Thank you, Brian. I want to keep abreast of this. So if we can, this project's gone on a long time. There's a long history there, folks, with the whole Gillette Madison project and, some of the delays and stuff. But the question I have, Brian, too, is it in the intent of the city of Gillette to bring all 5 of them online, given the fact that it looks like water demand may be going down, not up?
Mr. Chairman, that's my belief. I think these wells they'll be incorporated into the existing well field out there. There's 10 wells that are in the same proximity. So these will be additional wells from the Madison formation. And then as part of the final design, as far as the SCADA, how they tie these wells in and operate them within the 2 well fields still is yet to be determined. But yes, they intend to tie these wells in and utilize them for the water demands, not only for the city of Gillette, but there's 45 districts that also receive water from these wells.
Follow up.
No, thanks for the update on that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for this topic? I can't see everybody, so not sure.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just was going to ask because on the 1 page of the memo, they did say that the project agreement had a July 1st, 2022 reversion date and that they anticipated it to be completed in 2021. So I just was curious why we have a different time.
Director.
So Mr. Chairman, I think what we did is we were hoping to have the project done in 2021, but we wanted to give a little extra time. So before the money reverts, so we extended the reversion date a little bit longer. And I think what we're anticipating is they're going to be closer to the reversion date than 2021.
Follow up.
Just one last question, Brendan. Do
Yes,
you know
Chairman.
do you know what the interest rate that we're paying on, that the city of Gillette's paying on the loan on these?
It would be 4%.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Senator Dockstader.
and I know you probably said it, but where are we again with Gillette? You said it, but I probably missed it.
Director?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Senator Dockstader, we're nearing the end of the project, and if you're talking about timelines, we think that we've got maybe 2 years left of the project at the most that we're looking at right now. And budget-wise, we're looking to have a savings of roughly $30 million, 20 of which would be the state's appropriation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? I don't see any, so I think if everybody's okay, let's take a 10-minute break and be back at 10:21.
Are we on?
I don't quite see a quorum yet, so we'll wait a couple more minutes.
Are we still muted?
There, we're coming on.
We're live.
Why don't we call the meeting back to order? And I think we're on item number 5, update on Seminole Reservoir O&M account.
So
Director.
did you want to move that, Director, or move one of the other items up? I'm just now trying to get caught up with you.
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, I think he'd sent me a text that he wants to move up the last item, number 10, to after this one, after the Seminole Reservoir.
Okay.
Is that correct, Director?
I'd appreciate that if we could. Thank you.
Yes. Is the committee okay with that? Okay, we'll plan on that then. Is that okay, Chairman?
I think it's the Vice Chairman's prerogative.
I think we're going to do it. Director, can you continue, please, on item number 5?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there were no handouts for this item in the e-notebook, so I'll just discuss it. We were asked to provide an update on a contract between the Water Development Commission and the Cheyenne Board of Public Utilities. And as part of this contract, it was originally, I'll just say part of the contract ties us into a storage account in Seminole Reservoir. And this goes back to the development and some of the negotiations for funding the Stage 2 project. And I believe that was possibly back as early as the 70s. It's been going on a long time. But at that time, to fund the Stage 2 Cheyenne project, which brought water from the Medicine Bow Mountains into the city of Cheyenne, the negotiations, there was concern about being able to supply emergency water to some of the municipalities on the North Platte system. So as part of some of the funding negotiations, that allowed the commission to use excess Stage 2 water to market to those municipalities, or that was the intent, but allow the commission to market the water with the intent being to help those municipalities. So that's how that whole thing started. And as part of that, then the city of Cheyenne purchased some storage in Seminole. So they store some of this excess water in the Seminole Reservoir. And because of our contract then, that ties us into paying some of the O&M charges on a portion of their portion of Seminole. And typically that equates to about the commission having about 5,000 acre foot of storage commitment in Seminole. It varies, but that's essentially what it's been. And then that equates to what has been about a $25,000 annual O&M payment to the board for our portion of the storage. Then Pathfinder modification came on, and that provided state storage in Pathfinder. And it kind of alleviated some of the concerns that we had with these municipalities, so we can use that water for the same purpose. And so since then, there hasn't been a whole lot of water marketed from the Stage 2 excess water. But we've maintained a relationship with the board through contracts. And it's even in statute, it's under 99-99-210 that sets all of this up. And it started with the appropriation of Stage 2, and it ties us into the excess Stage 2 water. So it's all set up in there, and that there's a date in that statute that takes this through 2036. And I would deduce that 2036 date was likely to be a 50-year date from when the whole thing started. And it was to help with securing the investment of the state. So that's probably the reason for the date. So the question that I was asked is, why are we still paying this $25,000 O&M charge for something that we really haven't been using? That is fairly accurate. And so I had a meeting with the Cheyenne Board of Public Utilities, made them aware that the state may want to potentially terminate that contract. It was a good meeting. They said that, yeah, it would be a financial hit to them, but that they would absorb what we have typically contributed. They would maintain their Seminole storage account, and ultimately that they would work with us on terminating the contract if that's the desire of the commission and Select Water. We discussed this yesterday at the commission meeting, and they made a motion and approval, giving the director authority to work with Select Water and the BOPU to change legislation and work to terminate that contract. I don't know if that's enough information for us to talk about, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Chairman Hicks.
Yeah, and Mr. Vice Chairman, when I saw this in the agency's budget, it raised the question. And so the question I have is this. It's predicated on the assumption that there's excess water. And one of the things when I looked at the diversion records, so you look at the water that's diverted out of Douglas Creek that goes into Rob Roy is then supposed to be replaced by, quote, water in the Little Snake. So there would have had to been an excess amount of water. Well, a couple of the records that I look at, we're paying for storage that water was never delivered. And so that kind of highlighted the issue there. So the question I have, Director Gephardt, have we ever audited the diversion records of the city of Cheyenne to make a determination of how much water was actually flowing? So if the system's a replacement system, whatever you take out, you're supposed to put back in. But to fill that Seminole account, you would have to divert an extra 10,000 acre feet of water out of the Little Snake. And what you see from the diversion records, at least the few that I looked at, that wasn't happening. It wasn't that level of water. So, have we been auditing those diversion records to, in fact, and I don't think we need to go back, but we need to go back and evaluate this. Pathfinder modification alleviated the need for what we were paying for to begin with. So there's a long history there. I don't think we need to go through all of it. I don't think we need to go back and audit the city of Cheyenne's. I think they're amicable, and I think the commission has given the director the authority to go ahead and work on this. And anyway, I appreciate you taking it up, Brandon, and the commission looking at it. But it's just a relic that we need to address. So that's just my thoughts, Mr. Vice Chairman. Director, any thoughts on when you'd like to try to proceed with the Select Water and the city of Cheyenne to kind of clear this up?
Director?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I was under the impression that was the desire of Select Water. So we've started the process already. As you mentioned, we got the commission approval. I do believe that if we are to terminate a contract with the Board of Public Utilities, that I believe legislation would have to be modified to do that. I did look into that. As I mentioned, it is in section 99-210. And I would guess, I'm not an attorney, but I would guess the simplest way to do it would be to delete 3 paragraphs in that bill. They would be bills E, G, and H. And I think it would accomplish what we need to do.
Mr. Chairman,
Abigail,
go ahead.
Mr. Co-Chairman, I just want to check with Abigail if she's captured that and if she could take a look at that section and see if Director Gephardt, his assumptions correct if we were going to terminate that. So you've got all that.
Mr. Chairman, I can take a look at that.
How would you like to proceed with this, Mr. Chairman?
Vice Chairman of committee, I'd just like to have Abigail work with the director and make sure that those are the appropriate statutes and get some agreement with the director that that's what that accomplishes that termination of that contract. And with that, maybe go ahead and draft that up, Abigail, and then send that out to the Select Water Committee for review. And then if and when we have a session, go ahead, Director Gephardt.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one of the easiest things may be to prepare an amendment to the omnibus water bill
Construction.
construction.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking, Mr. Chairman. If we can get that drafted up and take a look at it, and if the commission and the director agree with that, then we'll have that ready for whenever the omnibus water bill comes out. The Select Water Committee will have had a chance to look at it and ask questions, and then we'll just amend that into the omnibus water bill. Does that work for you, Mr. Vice Chairman, and other members of the committee?
Any other, just there? Looks like I got a thumbs up from some of you. Let's plan on that then.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this?
Mr. Chairman, if I might maybe clarify and help something with Senator Hicks's concern. The water that ends up at Seminole is actually minimum flow releases that were required by the 404 permit for Hog Park and Rob. They're required to provide minimum flows. And the idea was it would go down to Seminole, be stored, and then could be transferred back up as needed by the city of Cheyenne. So the term excess water is somewhat confusing, but the reality is they're collecting the minimum stroke flow releases required by their 404 permit and moving that bad water back up as needed.
Thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Purcell? I see the state engineer, Greg Lanning, is online. I didn't know if he was here to comment on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I need to get my video working as well. No, I have no comments on this. I'm sitting in and ready to go on the next item, however.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion on this? Well, we'll plan with we'll proceed with the plan we have to get this maybe as an amendment on the omnibus construction. With that, let's go to item number 10 that we moved up, water development program application fees. And Director, if you could update us on the discussion you had yesterday.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So this is a continuing discussion of some that we've had in the past, and I believe it's a result of some of the discussion that I've heard through different committees, legislative committees. There's a desire to review some of these historic application fees or other fee charges. So we have done that. I prepared and provided a memo to the commission dated December 9th, 2020. You have a copy of that. And it ties into the last discussion that we had on this. And so I amended an original recommendation and came up with this document.
Mr. Director, would you like this put up so we can see it?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we could do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Abigail.
Mr. Chairman, the last paragraph on page 1 is really what the gist of this is. And this incorporates a lot of the discussion that we've had with Select Water and the commission. So what I presented to the commission, there are a couple of ways to accomplish an application fee increase. The way it's described statutorily, there is a $1,000 application fee for level 1 and 2 studies. Also, on top of that, there is legislation that allows the commission to get reimbursements for level 1 and level 2 studies. So my recommendation would accomplish the same thing without requiring legislation to do it. It would require a change in our criteria that the commission voted on yesterday, and that's the method that we're going with. The commission adopted my recommendation yesterday, and I'll just explain what it is because we've had some discussions previously with this group. But it would be to keep the $1,000 application fee, and then it would be using the other statute to create a tiered, we'll call it a reimbursement, but it's essentially the same as an application fee for additional amount on top of the $1,000 application fee. And the tiered structure that I presented was, so everybody coming to the program would pay the $1,000 application fee. And then we would have the tier structure for small, medium, and large. So small entities, whether they're a municipality or an irrigation district, would pay an additional $1,000 on top of the application fee. So the tier 1, which would be the small entities, would end up paying a $2,000 application fee. The medium tier would pay an additional $2,000 or $3,000 total application fee. And then the large would pay an additional $3,000 or $4,000 total. On the following page, I presented what we have done on a preliminary analysis and try to determine what those tiers may be. I think before we amend our criteria, I would want to reevaluate this and make sure that we're comfortable still with it. But it essentially means that tier 1, which is the small tier, if you're a water system, it means less than 2,000 taps. And if you're an irrigation system, it's less than 9,000 acres served. Tier 2 would be water taps between 2,000 and 9,000. And for irrigation system, between 9,000 and 20,000 acres. For tier 3 would be greater than 9,000 taps or greater than 20,000 acres of irrigated lands. I'd be happy to stand for any questions. I would note that with the commission's approval to change the criteria, this criteria change would likely come in August, which is how we establish the criteria. So we're not changing it every year. So the normal process is that it would come to the commission and Select Water in August. It would be preliminary voted on, and then it would be sent to for public comment, written public comment, would not require a public hearing. And then at the next meeting, Select Water and the commission could adopt the criteria change, and then this would be in criteria. So basically what that means then is the next round of applications, which are due to the commission March 1st of 2021, would not be impacted by this change at that point. It would be essentially in effect for the 2022 application deadline. So that is the one timing issue, or not an issue, but that's how the timing of this would work. And I thought about that if we were to change application fees legislatively as well, it's very likely that any changes in legislation would not occur before the application fees are due this year. So essentially, it would have the same timing impact of however the committee chose to address the situation. But in short, the commission is prepared to increase application fees.
Are there any, Chairman Hicks, my mute was on.
Yeah, Vice Chairman Larson. So Director, as I understand this, for level 1 watershed studies, that rate would still be $1,000 application fee. That doesn't change. Is that correct?
Director?
Yeah,
There's no acres and no taps.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. And that's kind of an outlier that I do think that we would probably have to address somehow in the criteria. It's not associated with how I've set up the tiers. But yes, we would have to evaluate how those projects would be impacted.
Follow up, Chairman Hicks?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Representative Simpson?
You knew I was going to go there. Could we ask
I did.
Abigail to remove the document so we can see each other? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Director Gephardt, I really like what you've done here. Anytime we don't have to go back to the legislature and process things, if you have the full statutory authority to make this adjustment, I support that. If you recall, the $3,500 was put there in this proposed bill as a placeholder for you to work through. I really love the tiered approach. It allows our littlest of smallest groups to be able to afford, and yet we're getting a little bit more from the bigger groups that can't afford it. So I fully support what the commission has moved on this. I do think we need to add an outlier for the conservation districts. Thank you.
Any comments, Director?
Mr. Chairman, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And really what we've gained through the meeting yesterday was the commitment from the commission to address what we're hearing from legislature and concerns for application fees.
Mr. Chairman, I just echo that. This was supported unanimously by the commission. Some of us had some concerns about increases. This certainly placates that. And I think in particular, the tiered system for smaller entities was a key part in getting the commission 100% on board.
Thank you for the comments. Any other discussion, questions? Any public comment on this?
And there's nobody in the waiting room for this.
Thank you, Abigail. Well, let's go on then. I think we're on to item number 6 now, change to water rights. And I'm not sure if the, Director.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but as part of this agenda item, there is a draft bill. And I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that bill at this point, or I do have some thoughts on the bill.
Chairman Hicks.
Mr. Vice Chair, I would concur with Representative Simpson. I don't see any need for a bill. I think the commission and the office have done an excellent job addressing this issue. So my recommendation would just be to lay that bill back and we don't even take it up, Mr. Vice Chairman.
I think that is item number 7, is if I'm not correct. And so is that a motion to table this?
It was, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Is there a second? We have a second, Representative Simpson. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand. All those opposed? All right, good deal. I think that's a good idea. Let's continue. And I'm not sure if the state engineer is going to present the next one or if we should have Abigail do it. State engineer, Greg Lanning.
Well, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I still don't see my audio working, and and I'm all dressed up for you today as well. I've got, most likely I'm gonna, you can hear me all right, Mr. Vice Chairman? Thank you. I'm gonna hand this off to Superintendent, oh, there we go, Lauren Smith as well, and hopefully Abigail, he's in the waiting room, or we can let him on as well. Abby, can you hear me as well? Wow, I seem to have lost all my audio as well. I see Lauren in there. If you can hear me, please, Lauren, if you could take over. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Abby, can you hear me as well?
I can hear you, Greg, but I can take this. That's fine.
Yeah, we can hear you, Lauren.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman.
I've lost all my audio as well. I see Lauren in there. If you can hear me, please, Lauren, if you can take over. Thank you.
Greg, you're echoing very badly. You're hurting my eardrums.
I can hear you, Greg, but I can take this. That's fine.
Yeah, we can hear you, Lauren.
Yep. Okay.
I think he has the YouTube channel on or something. It's delayed.
Okay, can everybody hear me now? Are we good? Okay. No, this bill is amended 21 LSO-0078, which is an amendment of 41-3-114, paragraph F, which we had discussed at our last meeting. We had a few minor amendments to this. Really, the crux of the bill is to relax some of the expensive and stringent requirements of notice to parties that have either an intervening or an affected diversion on streams when the Board of Control is looking at petitions to change the point of diversion or the means of conveyance of another facility or ditch. Oftentimes what we run into is the having notice for hundreds of people. We end up with areas like the West Bank and Jackson or Wilson area, Teton County, the municipalities, when these water rights changes occur that affect a municipal area like that, you can oftentimes involve up to 1,000 notices that must be sent out to let these people know that a water right change is taking place or being proposed that could affect their water right in some manner. We're not trying to get away from the hearings that are necessary or any of that. It's just to relax some of the certified mail requirements as those bills run into the thousands of dollars for notice when we can take care of most of that through notice and publications like the newspapers and direct mailing through regular mail. And so that's what the cleanup is. I would stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
So
I can't hear Dan. Can't hear.
Mr. Vice Chair, can you hear me?
No.
You can hear me, but you can't speak. You're tongue-tied.
I can barely hear Senator Hicks.
I can hear
Chairman Hicks.
I can hear Chairman Hicks just fine.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is just walk through the bill, show us what the changes are, describe what happened before in the current situation, and let's look at that line by line where we have changes and then describe what's going to happen now. Yeah, so we got a good understanding of what the bill is. Does that work for you, Vice Chairman Larson?
It does, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and
Mr.
I don't know if
Smith?
you want to do that, Lauren, or why don't you, Lauren, take a stab at that for us, will you?
Mr. Chairman, could we have Abigail put that up on screen?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So really we did it on line 13 of the page 1. You'll see just minor changes, a little cleanup of editorial, just cleaning up the language there a little bit. But the bulk of the changes are down here on page 2, lines 6 through 18, where this is primarily just an insertion to clarify those requirements for the mailing notice. It's a pretty simple little insertion, but the primary thing is that if there is at least 20 owners that must be notified, we're looking at line 7 here, the Board of Control or the state engineer, depending on where the petition is resident, can allow the notice to be done by regular mail. And we've just taken out the registered mail language through that section. And then we added we cleaned up the notice in the paper with 2 notices to go out through the paper prior to the hearing, giving them a minimum of 30 days notice and no less than 10 days notice on the second advertisement in the paper to verify that people are actually getting the notice necessary of a hearing. So basically that's it in a
Mr.
nutshell.
Vice Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Chairman Hicks.
Yeah, I see. I don't think the page 2 is the substantive part of the bill. I really think it's in line 13 because you're doing a significant shift of responsibilities there. The way I read it, the state engineer or the superintendent shall set a hearing on a petition and, as it currently reads, give 30-day notice by registered mail at the time and place of the hearing to the petitioner and owners of appropriations. So that's a function that's currently provided by the state engineer's office. And what
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Lauren.
Right now, currently we pass those charges right on to the petitioner.
The charges.
Yes, those charges of the notification, the advertising of the hearing, and for the hearing itself, the court reporter, the preparation of the transcript, things like that, is all passed on to the appropriator or the petitioner in that case currently. So this is no change to that.
Yeah, Lauren, I understand you passed the cost on, but the way this reads now, you've now made it the requirement of the petitioner to actually provide notice to all of those other intervening water rights holders. And my question would be, how the hell are they going to know who that is? I mean, where are they going to get? It's not explicit to me. We've said you're going to notify the 1 to 400 intervening. That's your responsibility to do it by registered. So a couple of questions. How are they going to know? And then how is the superintendent or the state engineer going to know that they complied with notification process?
Thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Currently, the way this works right now, our technical staff in our board staff in Cheyenne, in their normal review of these petitions, they develop a consent list of individuals that need to consent to that petition or be notified for that. They build that list with all the ownership documentation behind that to verify that those people are who we need to notice for the hearing. We provide that list to the petitioner's agent. Typically, they prepare the mailing. And right now what happens is if it's a huge number, they will bring those prepared letters, and they are postmarked and ready to go in the mail, but we go through them with fine tooth comb, make sure there's a letter to each individual in our own offices in the field. And then we take them and put them into the mail ourselves so that we know those letters went out to each individual and that their consent has actually been sought. So that is a current task that we are already doing, and we have no idea of changing that right now.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, I see Representative Simpson has a question.
Representative Simpson, hey.
Thank you. Mr.
There we are.
Chairman. Senator, I think there was some confusion clear up into page 1 and 2. On page 1, they've just cleaned that sentence up a little bit. So on line 13, it says that the petitioner still has to do all this. They got rid of on line 2 of page 2 just because it was confusing to say the petitioner again. If we go down to line on page 2, line 11, basically what is said is the state, if there's fewer than 20 people, the state can allow the petitioner to provide notice of hearings by regular mail. So I don't think we're changing anything here. I think that the petitioner still has all the same responsibilities.
Mr. Chairman, that was our intent all along, was just to clean this up and remove essentially the language requiring registered mail for these large groups.
Abigail?
Mr. Chairman, I can provide a little background. We kind of went back and forth on this language. The statute originally says the state engineer and superintendent shall set a hearing and do the petition, the mailing. And then so we had mimicked that language down below, but the problem was in the rule, the Board of Control wanted to be clear that the petitioner was doing the notice and providing the regular mail. So to not have a different interpretation in the statute where it read, you could, by doing that, you would have inadvertently changed the meaning of the existing language that may have superseded the Board of Control's rules to where now the board was going to be mailing this notice. They weren't going to be able to pass that along. That's why we made that amendment in the line 13.
Any further discussion on this? Chairman Hick.
I always find it interesting when an agency passes a rule that's inconsistent with the statute. It is a good thing to clear those things up so we have some consistency because they usually lead to lawsuits and then cost people a lot of money. So how long has this practice been in place under the rule where we've shifted the responsibility onto the petitioner?
Mr. Smith or Mr. Lanning?
Mr. Chairman, I've been on the board now for 17 years. I know it's been in place that long. I don't believe it's ever been anything different. I would imagine it probably goes back to the statutory development in probably in the mid-60s or early 60s, I believe is about the time frame for this change.
For the rules or for the statute?
For the statutory change. The statute came about these edits originally.
Yeah.
Follow up, Chairman?
No, I think it's good to clarify it, and we need consistency between the rules and the statute. It's just, in my tenure, we've seen numerous cases where rules conflict with statutes, and that's never a good case. So I just want to make sure that the water users that are going to be affected, that this really doesn't change anything. From that standpoint, they're accustomed to it. And that was my concern with just inserting the language. And I think Abigail did a good job of clarifying it, that this is just bringing the statutes into conformance with what the practice has been for quite some time. So,
yeah. Mr. Chairman, ultimately, it should reduce the cost to the petitioners down the road significantly. These certified mails are about $7.50 a piece right now is what we're seeing. So we can get by for 55 cents.
Any other discussion? State Engineer Lanning.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Also, the chairman asked any other changes from, we met and discussed this in November quite a bit also, and some changes were suggested at that time. What doesn't show up is that we took out language and we used the words unduly burdensome, for instance. And so we struck that line per guidance also. And so now it reads a little bit better and more towards what the committee wanted for us. Beyond that, there was quite a bit of discussion between, registered and certified and regular mail. And I think we're past all that as well.
Any questions? I don't see any. Is there comments from the public? Abigail, do you have anybody in the waiting room?
Chairman, there's nobody in the waiting room for this.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions for State Engineer's Office? How does the committee want to proceed? Open for a motion. Representative Simpson?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I move that we adopt this proposed bill and move it forward to the legislature.
Is there a second? Senator Dockstader, thank you. Are there any amendments? Any discussion? Abigail, can you please have a roll call?
Mr. Chairman, roll call to move 20 LSS 78 version 4. Representative Blake.
Aye.
Representative Eklund.
I don't see him. We might ask at the end.
Representative Paxton.
Abigail, Representative Paxton had delayed. He left an aye vote for the balance of the bills with me.
Representative Simpson.
Aye.
Senator Anselmi Dalton.
Aye.
Senator Dockstader.
Aye.
Senator Driscoll.
Aye. Proxy for Senator Driscoll.
Senator Moniz.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Aye.
Chairman Hicks.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that motion passes.
Thank you, Abigail. I think we're on to, we tabled item number 7, and so we're on to item number 8, and we'll go to the director.
I vote aye. If you can hear me.
Thank you, Representative Eklund. Did you get that, Abigail? Thank you. Director.
If you can hear me, I am ready for the small water discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We hear you.
Okay. So there was a bill draft.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Del Lobb from the Game and Fish Department is also available if there are any questions on this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So we tried to address, I think in part of the draft bill LSO-3-0316. Or are we talking, I apologize, I might be on the wrong subject. Are we talking small water or in-stream flow?
I think we're on in-stream flow.
Okay.
We tabled the small water program.
We did. I'm not aware of that.
Oh, I got the wrong one. Okay, I thought that was the proposed bill.
Believe you
That was the one for the fee increase.
Okay. I have to apologize. We're on item number 7 then, small water program.
Sorry to confuse.
Sorry about that, Chairman Hicks.
I'm confused also, Vice Chairman, so that's okay. We're in a good company.
We're on board now. We should be discussing the proposed bill 21 LSO 316.
So, Mr. Chairman, there are really two components to the way I understand the draft bill. One of the components we'll talk about first on page 2, paragraph B. I believe the intent of this legislation is to allow a small water grant to fund subsequent projects on a single facility as long as the total appropriation is not above the $35,000 cap. So I will say that I don't disagree with that. And I will jump to the document that we provided, the draft guidance document. So there's two parts to that. We were asked to prepare a guidance document, both for internal use of how we administer the program, but also externally so that people can understand how we do that. So primarily this has been developed, it's in draft form. We presented it to the commission this week. We asked them to basically say, here it is. Let's review it over the next period and let's have a discussion and address comments or concerns in the next meeting, which would be the March meeting. So this is in draft version and presents it. But how this document ties into the bill, Abby, if you're able to go to page 7 of the document. So this is under the chapter in the bill of ineligible projects or expenses. And what we did under bullet 7 of this is we tried to address what we thought the bill was trying to accomplish. And I will read bullet 7 to see if we have accomplished just that. So the item 7 says rehabilitation of a structure that has already been rehabilitated once, period. Program criteria project limit to a one-time construction of a new project, a single rehabilitation of an existing project, or eligible subsequent appropriations provided the total grant does not exceed $35,000. So essentially what we're saying in this guidance document is you can have multiple projects on a single facility as long as the total grant doesn't exceed $35,000. So it could be multiple applications, it could be multiple years to address the issue of it, but it's still $35,000. I will say that that's in the guidance document as it stands. With the timing of everything, we do think that in August that we would have to amend criteria because there's a sentence in the criteria, operating criteria for small water, that I think we can amend that sentence to include this. And then I believe it frees us up to be able to do multiple projects on a single facility. And so I would ask the committee, is that the intent of the bill, and do we accomplish that through criteria and this guidance document and how we function?
Chairman Hicks.
Brandon, I do think that accomplishes, I just think it will require just a little more clarification because I could still read that. I think you can do it through criteria or through the guidance and making that adjustment to criteria. And if the commission's inclined to do that, that makes again, I don't want to pursue with the bill. We've got enough things on our plate in the legislature that the more that we can work through the agencies and your rulemaking and processes, the better off we'll be. So we may want to tweak that language just a little bit in bullet 7, but if that's where you guys are inclined to go, I'm inclined to not push that component of the bill.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've got a commitment. The commission agrees that I think we're we're all fine with the concept, and we can work out the details and criteria.
Okay. So,
Any other, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
no, there's another component of that bill, and I was wondering if Director Gephardt shared the discussion that the commission had on that.
Mr. Chairman, yes, we did discuss this, and I've got a little bit of concern of how to do this. So the concept is that if it's not a public work, then we don't have to go through the 41-day advertising period at the close of construction, I believe is the root of this intent. We don't disagree with that at all. My concern with putting that into criteria, you're asking the commission to be the judge on whether it's a public work or not. With that, and I do know that there's been, last year, those definitions were developed. They are much more clear, but I do think there are some gray areas. And my concern with the commission, if they don't fully understand the thought, and I'm approaching this by, if we can exclude and not have to go to this advertising period, it saves the entities money, and we're all for that. But my concern that if we don't understand it, or the commission doesn't understand it and have to be the judge, and they err on the side of conservancy, they may say that it's a public work if they don't know the answer to it. So and then that kind of defeats what we're trying to do. So I don't have an issue with that. I would ask the committee and maybe the attorneys more specifically, is there something that we can add to the appropriation for small water programs in the omnibus construction bill that would exclude the project grants for small water from the notification requirements? And I believe the statute for that is 16-6-116. So that's kind of a question that I was wondering, basically, if we could put in that these projects are not required to comply with the notice requirements of statute 16-6-116 in the appropriation authorization, as opposed to making the commission have to weigh in on it.
Chairman Hicks.
Yeah, so Vice Chairman Larson, so I think we need to frame up the discussion for the entire committee so they understand what we're really talking about here. So 16.6 governs notification for public work process. And last year, because of some confusion, the legislature actually went in and provided a definition of what constitutes a public works. And I'll have Abigail, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute to walk us through what that definition is, so you can get that pulled up for the committee and do that. So one of the issues that came out is a little over a year ago, I had asked Bobby Frank to poll all of the conservation districts and any other of the sponsors. We've had some municipal sponsors and a few other entities of small waters, is just, what some of the issues were that they thought could be improved with the small water program. The number one issue came back is this notification requirement. And what the notification requirement is for a public work, that public entity has to go out and advertise in a local newspaper for a period of time, 3 weeks. And the purpose of that is so if there's subcontractors out there that have not been paid, or materials men's, that there's a notification in the paper so that these guys are going to get paid, and you need to make sure that you don't have any, and I don't know what the terminology is in the construction industry, haven't received your payments, that you could proceed with legal garnishment of those or legal action. But the point being is small water projects in their very nature are not public works. they don't read the definition. And so what it was, so it cost both the sponsor and the state money to go out and advertise in a paper. And this goes through the 40 some day notification period. It delays the amount of time that the money then can be collected and dispersed to the contractors. So these are very small projects, don't meet the definition of public works. So we've increased costs both to the state because they're paying 50% of the cost of the advertisement, 50% of the cost of the project proponent or beneficiary, and then we're delaying the amount of time that the contractors are getting paid for a provision that's not applicable. So Abby, could you just walk us through the definition and give us your analysis of how the small water project may not be applicable to this provision?
Mr. Chairman, last year, the legislature, I guess this year still, the legislature amended in a definition of public work, and it includes alteration, construction, demolition, enlargement, improvement, major maintenance, reconstruction, renovation, repair of any highway, public building, public facility, public monument, public structure, or public system. You know, without details, I don't think I could apply that definition to specific projects, but that would be the definition someone would have to meet now in order to have the notification requirements under 16.6.116 apply. Before, there was not a specific definition.
Chairman Hicks?
No, so I just want to make sure that we understand what we're doing if we do something here. So Director Gephardt, your suggestion is we just go into the, because what we've done is prepared an amendment that goes into the non-codified section of the water law, which is 99, whatever provision that is, which authorizes the small water project and just says the small water projects. So is this the proposed amendment, Abby?
Yes.
So the proposed amendment that we have, this just goes into the actually authorizing legislation, and we would add that in there. So we wouldn't have to put it in every single, every water bill every year, put the same language in there. This would go through and change the original authorization. And to get to the issue, if in the case that there was potentially a project that meets the public definition, we would bring this language in. So I can't read that, Abby, on the screen. So could you do that?
Mr. Chairman, the language is Wyoming Statute 16.6.116 shall not apply to a small project unless the project sponsor determines the small project meets the definition of a public work as defined in Wyoming Statute 16.6.101.9.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, I had not seen this, but this accomplishes what I'm asking.
It puts the burden of responsibility from the commission back onto the project sponsor to make that determination, whether in fact it's a public work. So you still have that, you still have the safeguards. Now, go ahead, Abigail. Did you have something you wanted to add?
No.
So you still have that protections, and so let me give you an example where with a small water project, you potentially could have a public work. So rural fire districts are eligible. I don't know if it meets the definition of monuments and roads, but it could be construed that was in fact a public work because they're a subdivision of state government. In that scenario, they would still have to go out there and probably comply with the advertising requirements in 16.6.116. The vast majority, probably 98% of the projects are never going to fall under the category of a public work by the definition of the legislature. So it's just trying to clean it up so that we're not spending time and money, and we're getting contractor paid on a reasonable time frame to get the work done. So that's all we're trying to accomplish here. Questions, Mr. Vice Chairman or members of the committee?
Can't see everybody if you just speak up. Oh, there we are. Any questions? Don't see any. Is there public comment?
Mr. Chairman, there's no one in the waiting room.
Okay. Is everybody up to speed on this, and what does the committee want to do? Is there a motion to move the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I will move that amendment.
I think we need to move the bill, maybe.
Mr.
Well,
Chairman?
yeah, Abigail, this is a little different animal here. How do we do?
Oh, okay, okay.
So what we could do, since it sounds like the committee's not moving forward on the first part of this bill, this 316, we could do a motion to reconsider the construction bill, I believe, and we could put this amended language into the small water program section of the construction bill. And I think, I have to pull the construction bill up, but I think that's what Brandon was proposing. And then would be one bill instead of this lone bill moving through.
Mr. Chairman, is that what your thoughts are?
I'm going to go with the attorney. She's a lot smarter than I am on how to do this.
I agree with that. She's a lot smarter than I am. A lot smarter than I am. Senator, okay. So what's the committee want to do? Do you want to open the construction bill?
I make a motion to reconsider the construction bill, Mr. Vice Chair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Senator Moniz. All right, we are on the construction bill. Is there an amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I would move the proposed amendment. I don't know the number on that deals with section G.
Abigail, can you help us with this? Is it enough just to have the concept and then you could take care of that?
Well, it's actually been drafted.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I think we need to
Representative Blake.
vote. I think we need to vote on the reconsideration and then we
We
can
do.
move with the amendment.
Thank you for the clarification. There's a motion on the table that we reconsider the construction bill. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Looks like it's unanimous, so we are now on the bill. Reconsideration.
Abigail, what's the number on that amendment, or is there a number?
Mr. Chairman, there's not a number. At this point, we don't actually draft them in the formal system. We just draft them outside the system and make them look like they should.
That's right.
Let me pull this back up again. So on the construction bill, it helps because water development was already wanting to put money into the small water projects. So those sections are already in the construction bill. So I think we can just add the amendment for a new subsection G. It'd be still the same subsection G, subparagraph G. Here's the proposed. Let's put this back on the screen if you don't mind. So it would be to insert a new subparagraph G that reads like this, basically, into the construction bill. And it has to go in twice because there's two small water program sections.
Is that your motion, Chairman Hicks?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'd so move.
Is
No,
there
not
a,
a- I'll wait for the second.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Representative Blake, second. Okay, is there discussion on the amendment?
Chairman, just in a roundabout way, I'm involved in publication, so I'll vote conflict.
Thank you, Senator Dockstader. Is there any other questions or discussion? I still would guess there's no public comment.
No public comment, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Question on the amendment there.
Is this require a roll call vote?
Mr. Chairman, I think you can pass the motion, but we will do another roll call vote to move the bill out as amended.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your hand. I can't see them, but I bet Abigail can.
I will stop sharing my screen too.
All right. All those opposed? And we might document that Senator Dockstader had a conflict. All right. Any other discussion before we vote on the bill again? A roll call vote on that, please.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to call that roll call?
Yes,
Or I guess we
please.
need a motion to pass the bill out.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I would move the bill again.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Now we'll do a roll call vote, I hope.
Representative Blake, or I guess I'll say 20 LSO 310 version 2 as amended now. So
Aye.
Representative
Aye.
Blake. Representative Eklund.
Aye.
Representative Paxton.
He didn't know this was coming, so I don't know how you want to treat that, but
Probably a no vote, I would take it, or excused.
Representative Simpson.
Aye.
Senator Anselmi Dalton.
Aye.
Senator Dockstader.
Conflict.
Senator Driscoll.
Senator Driscoll left a proxy vote of aye.
Senator Moniz.
aye.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Aye.
And Chairman Hicks.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the motion passes.
Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, committee. I think we are now on the next item, number 8, that I tried to go to before, in-stream flow interagency agreement.
Mr. Chairman. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so the in-stream flow interagency agreement and also the next item, number 9, go hand in hand. But item 8 is an interagency agreement to be able to allow the Wyoming Game and Fish to fund a water development study for in-stream flow. In particular, this in-stream flow study is for the Rock Creek and Trail Ridge Creek in-stream flow level 1 study. The consultant has been selected. So the interagency agreement, the total amount for the agreement is $19,430. And we're asking for the committee's approval to enter into that agreement.
Is there any questions? Yes, Chairman Hicks.
Yeah, and maybe it's a good time to get Dale in here. Just, I'm just curious where these in-stream flow segments are at. I don't see that. It may be in the agreement, but I'm scrolling through there and I can't find it. So I'm curious as to how many rock creeks are there in Wyoming?
Mr.
Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, probably too many rock creeks to count. This Rock Creek is in the LaBarge Creek Basin, and Trail Ridge Creek is in a tributary to Beaver Creek in the Piney Creek Basin.
Yeah, and Dale, just a little explanation as to what's the priority fisheries that we're trying to protect with this? And then if you can characterize any upstream, downstream uses that currently are on the system.
Mr. Lobb.
Mr. Chairman, the segments are all on public land. The Rock Creek segment is on BLM and state land, and the Trail Ridge Creek is on all BLM lands. They contain important populations of Colorado River cutthroat trout. In fact, they're core conservation populations, which means they're 99% genetically pure populations. So they're important to protect and maintain. There are no intervening diversion permits in the segments. I can't characterize the downstream water rights, but there are no water rights that we found in the segments themselves.
Chairman,
And- Go ahead.
Mr. Vice Chairman, follow up. Is there quite a bit of irrigation downstream of this, Dale, or not on these tributaries? And what are these tributaries to?
Mr. Lobb?
Rock Creek is a tributary to LaBarge Creek, and the segment, there's very little distance between the segment, downstream end of the segment, and LaBarge Creek on Rock Creek. So I don't think there's any diversion on Rock Creek itself, downstream of the segment. On Trail Ridge Creek, there is a diversion less than a mile downstream of the segment, but I don't know the specifics on it.
And then, Mr. Co-Chairman, just to follow up, Dale, based on the discussions we had last year with the in-stream flow bill that didn't make it through didn't even get introduced in the House due to time. Can you just tell us what the outreach efforts have been by the department associated with this potential filing and the study?
Mr. Lobb?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, in August, the Game and Fish Department released a press release describing that applications had been submitted for these two segments. And then also in the October issue of the Wyoming Wildlife Magazine, there was a one-page article describing that the applications had been presented and why they had been presented and where the segments are. And as part of the next topic on the agenda, the in-stream flow contract with the consultant, in that proposal, in that contract, the consultant will, before they go out in the field next spring, they will have a scoping meeting, and water users downstream of the segment and local stakeholders will be invited to that scoping meeting. Similar to that, there's an ongoing feasibility study in the Upper Wind River, and a scoping meeting was held for that in August of this year. The intention was to hold it before fieldwork started, but COVID-19 delayed that meeting. We kept hoping we could have it as an in-person meeting, but eventually it was a virtual meeting that we held in August. So the plan would be for Rock Creek and Trail Ridge Creek would be to hold an in-person or possibly a virtual meeting in the spring, and based on information that the consultants find in the water rights development and information from SEO, will invite stakeholders that was the intent to invite in the proposed bill last year.
I appreciate the efforts of the department on that, Dale. I just think that the more we let people know, even if it's just a perception, that they may be impacted, I think this is a great educational process and will enhance the in-stream flow process, and get broader public support, and particularly for the ag community that's, it tends to be the one that's the most concerned about these filings. So the more outreach we do early on, I think the more strength it gives to the program. So appreciate those efforts of the department and taking that on voluntarily. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank
Yes.
you, and I agree.
Any other? Yep, Representative Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lobb, where is Rock Creek in, let's say, is it downstream of, let's say, South LaBarge Creek? Is that where we're looking?
Mr. Lobb?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not exactly sure. It's fairly high up in the watershed, so I think it's upstream of South LaBarge Creek.
Okay,
But
thank
I'd
you.
have to double check.
Thank you.
Follow up? Other questions? Don't see any.
I thought maybe Representative Roscoe would weigh in on that. I think that is LaBarge Creek in your House district, Representative Roscoe?
Representative Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, it's not. I believe it's down by where Tom Crank, I think,
Okay,
lives. It's on my list to explore. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Any other discussion on this? I may need a little help on this, Mr. Chairman. Is this something, or Abigail, is this something we need to vote on?
Mr. Chairman, I think you can vote on it to make a recommendation, but it's not actually an approval of the contract.
What would be your desire, Chairman Hicks? Do you have an opinion?
No,
Okay, I think we've had discussion. Let's go on to the next topic.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I know that shocks some people on this committee that I don't have an opinion, but with that being said, there's a first time for everything.
Senator Dockstetter.
Mr. Chairman, I am stunned at this point, but nonetheless, do we need to have something to walk away with, some direction?
If that's your desire, we could have a hand vote and say that the committee agrees with this agreement, I guess. Is that what you're thinking? Okay. All those in favor of the in-stream flow interagency agreement with Wyoming Water Development and the Game and Fish, raise your hand.
Mr. Chairman, did you want a motion for that or just a
Oh,
straw?
I'm being led here. I really don't know.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'm sitting here, historically, we haven't seen these. And because of the bill draft last year and all the discussions that we took up as in-stream flow, I think because that was driven by Select Water, I think the commission is now saying, we'll provide you the opportunity to look closely or more closely at these agreements and stuff. So I really don't think it requires an affirmative action. That would be my assumption based on historical practice. But I do think it makes sense given the light of the fact that the discussions that we've had over the last year or two with in-stream flows. So, Mr. Chairman, along those lines, I will make a motion that we support the agreement between the Water Development Commission and the Wyoming Game and Fish Department for the two listed stream segment in-stream flow study. I don't remember exactly what they were, but that would be my motion, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman.
We have a second from Senator Dockstetter, and I would like to clarify, does that include item 8 and 9 then? No, I'm getting the signal. Okay, just item 8. Okay, and we have a second. Any discussion? Is raising hands enough for this? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Looks like it passed unanimously. Let's go on to item number 9, the director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This does require Select Water approval because this would be the contract between the Water Development Commission and the consultant who would be Arrow Land and Water LLC. It's a contract in the amount of $19,430 to conduct the Rock Creek and Trail Ridge Creek in-stream flows 2020 level 1 study.
Any questions? I see none. I think we'll go to the roll call vote then.
Well, we need to move it.
Oh, my word. Sorry.
I'll move
motion.
it.
Representative Blake made the motion. All a second?
Second.
Senator Anselmi Dalton. Okay. Any discussion?
Question.
Question's been called. Please, Abigail, have a roll call.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think you have to do a roll call for this one, but I can if you want.
I think let's go ahead.
Okay. Representative Blake.
Aye.
Representative Eklund.
Aye.
Representative Paxton. Six.
He left an aye vote.
Representative Simpson.
Aye.
Senator Anselmi Dalton.
Aye.
Senator Dockstader.
Aye.
Senator Driscoll.
Proxy vote for Senator Driscoll was an aye.
Senator Moniz.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Larson.
Aye.
Chairman Hicks.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that passes.
Thank you, Abigail. All right, I think that's all the agenda items. Is that correct? Is there any public comment out there remaining?
Mr. Chairman, no one's in the waiting room. So.
Director Gephardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to express my gratitude and speak for the office. I know that we've got some legislators that are leaving Select Water, particularly Representative Blake, Senator Anselmi Dalton, and Senator Moniz. I just want to say thank you for all you guys have done for me and the agency. Really appreciated getting to know you and working with you, and best of luck in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I was going to bring that up, and I too appreciate all your service, all three of you, and it'll be a tough deal to lose you, but thank you for your service. Any other comments? Would you like to speak, Representative Blake?
Oh, you know, I might even sing a song. Who knows? I just want to say it's been I've been on this committee since 2007, and I've gone Mr. Besson, Mr. Purcell, Harry Labonte, Mr. Gephardt, great leaders. The staff of the Water Development Office is fantastic. I've got a few favorites, but I won't say their names out loud. But serving with all of you ladies and gentlemen has been an honor. And we need to fight for our water because the infrastructure on our aging irrigation systems, you guys need to keep that going and inform the rest of the legislature that we're going to have some issues down the road if we don't fund these projects. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with all of you. And Senator Dockstader and I came in as freshmen a few years ago. I'll miss all you guys, but I'll be around. So thank you all.
Thank you, Representative Blake. Senator Anselmi Dalton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Chairman Hicks. I've enjoyed working with everyone, and the staff has been great. Obviously, I have enjoyed working with Director Gephardt and his staff, and Director Labonte before him. The best part of being in the legislature, I think, was learning things and meeting the people. So it's been my honor to serve with all of you, and I'll be around, so I'll be seeing you. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Moniz.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Larson. I reiterate what both Lisa and Representative Blake have said. I've enjoyed working with all of you. I'm definitely going to miss you. I think that's probably the most rewarding part of our service, is interacting with all the different legislators. And I am going to miss that part. I am not going to miss all of you Zooming clear up until May or whenever you're going to be doing it. You know, I've heard it said that legislation is a contact sport, and it definitely is. And legislating over a computer screen is difficult at best. But I am going to miss all of you. And Director Gephardt, you've done an excellent job. You were swimming upstream, still are probably, but you're doing an excellent job. So I've enjoyed working with all of you, and I thank you for your good wishes.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any other comments? Chairman Hicks, yeah, we got you.
You know, you guys know how it all works. We look forward to you guys stopping by if and when we ever get back in the Capitol. I look forward to introducing all of you on the floors of the Senate.
I agree. All right. Anything else?
Merry Christmas to everybody.
That's right. Merry Christmas. I think we'll adjourn then.
Everyone's better.
Oh. Okay.